I'm your commander of common sense. Your juggernaut for the truth. Right here, joining us now, Justin Fairfax. Who is Justin Fairfax? Well, he's running for lieutenant governor. He's a Democrat, and that'll be decided in the June 13th Democrat primary. Remember, statewide primaries on June 13th. It's a big deal. First time it's happened in Virginia in many, 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 many years. And 3 candidates running to be the nominee of the Democratic Party for lieutenant governor on the Democratic side, and that's Justin Fairfax, Susan Platt, and Gene Rossi. Now, here's my intro. For months, I was saying that Justin Fairfax is the favorite to win this race because he's been running for a long time. He's got high name ID. He ran against Mark Herring for Attorney General in 2013, came from nowhere. We predicted an upset. Everybody made fun of us. He got beat by 1 point, almost caught him at the wire. This time, though, he's not closed the deal. Susan Platt's still hanging around. Gene Rossi's still hanging around. This race getting closer, and we don't know what the turnout's going to be. We predict Tom Perriello is going to be the Democratic nominee. We think he's going to beat Ralph Northam. I don't know what that means to the down tickets. Nobody's really paying attention, but the person that should win this race is joining us now, Justin Fairfax. Hey, Justin, good to have you with us.
Hey, John, good morning to you and your listeners. Thanks for having me on again.
How do you close this deal and win this race?
Well, John, no one closes the deal until the polls close on June the 13th, and we are excited about the momentum in the campaign. I hope you saw the news yesterday. Congressman Donald McEachin endorsed us, and
yes,
he's been a great public servant and a wonderful friend, and so we're honored to have his support. And he, of course, joined Congressman Jerry Connolly here in Northern Virginia. Of course, Congressman McEachin is in Richmond in the Central Virginia area. And so, there are over 100 elected officials who've endorsed us. But again, it goes far beyond support of just elected officials. We have a lot of grassroots support and energy as people are tuning into this race. John, and as you mentioned, a lot of folks, had not been paying much attention, but now they are. And what we're seeing is that people are breaking dramatically in our direction. And that's because, we have a powerful message that's focused on them and on their families and their economic security and opportunity. So they can buy a house, get a job that pays them higher wages, send their kids to college, get health care, and really, get a pathway to the middle class and the American dream. And that's what we've talked about from day one. And that message is really resonating all around the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Okay. So do you expect the Washington Post editorial pages to make an endorsement in your race?
Yeah, John, my understanding is that they are likely not to be issuing endorsements. I don't know, and certainly wouldn't speak for the Post, but, we would welcome the opportunity to talk with them if they are looking to do that. But as you know, 4 years ago, John, when we did have the opportunity to get before the Washington Post, we won the Washington Post endorsement in that statewide race, and they cited what they called our agile and impressive command of the issues, and also a prosecutor's passion for justice, and really our message of economic security. So this is something that we have been consistently focused on, this message of making sure that more folks get that economic security and opportunity, get higher-paying jobs, these middle-skilled jobs that are available here in the Commonwealth of Virginia today. As you have said, John, a paycheck doesn't have an ideology, and people just want to feed their families and move up the economic ladder, and that's where, we're focused. I'm not going into Election Day talking about myself. I'm going into Election Day talking about other people and what we want them to achieve for themselves and for their families. So we, have gotten great press coverage. The New York Times, as you may know, called us the favorite to win the Democratic nomination. But, we're not resting on any laurels. We are, working hard day and night. I've traveled over 35,000 miles around the Commonwealth of Virginia in the last 12 months. We've been meeting people in their communities where they are, listening to their concerns, their hopes, their dreams, their anxieties, and putting forward a plan that really addresses all of those. It's been this hopeful, positive message. And I'll tell you, John, our polling within the campaign, has us looking good. People are breaking our way. And so we're excited really about the momentum that we have going into Election Day.
That's good news, Justin. Now, the New York Times called you the favorite because they read all my columns. See, that's why they called you the favorite. And they know that I'm never wrong about these things.
Intel from you.
They know that I'm the authority in calling these races in Virginia. So they looked at my column and said, if Frederick says he's the favorite, that's all we need to know. And we appreciate that.
It's a smart move. We
Why not? But see, that's
read your columns and did that.
That's the whole thing. Well, look, we had Gene Rossi on the other day, and he's run a good campaign. He's a good guy, and he's closing.
Yeah.
And he said something interesting, and I really wanted to get your take on it, if I may. Yeah. Justin, he said, people shouldn't be making decisions based on identity politics. They shouldn't vote for somebody because they're a woman or they're an African American. They should vote for the person for lieutenant governor based on their record, what they can do, what their positions are. I thought that was interesting for him to say because he's a white male. There's two other candidates in that race. Yourself, you're African American, and Susan Platt, who's the woman in the race.
Yeah.
Just respond to that.
Yeah, and I didn't hear the full interview, but I'll tell you, John, I actually agree with Gene in that regard. I mean, I don't think this election should be about identity politics. I don't really think any election should be about identity politics. What elections should be about are the voters. Mm-hmm. And we should not, be talking about ourselves and, based on characteristics that we were born with. I mean, I think the key is, what, we do to create opportunity for other people. And so, John, you don't hear me going around saying vote for me because of, something about my identity. Never said it. And what I do say is that we have a chance to begin to write a positive new story in this nation. We have been so divided. And I think we've gotten so distracted from the fundamental economic concerns that people have in their lives. And we have been, in our campaign, focused like a laser on that. So I think voters are incredibly smart. I think they are looking at people's platforms, how they've articulated them, where the focus has been, people's sets of experiences and what they bring to the table, and also the energy and the enthusiasm that they're generating. As you know, John, and I mentioned this, at our campaign kickoff in Northern Virginia, we had over 300 people fill up a restaurant in January on a snowy, icy night. We went down to Hampton Roads in Portsmouth. We had over 300 people come out there. We are seeing crowds swell all around the Commonwealth of Virginia. We have now raised over $1 million in this race, more than any other Democratic candidate combined. And we've done that from about nearly 4,000 donors. That is energy and enthusiasm, John. That's excitement, and that's what you've been seeing throughout this campaign. And I think that's what a lot of other people like the New York Times and written about in a number of national publications. The Root, of course, Washington Post has covered this race. And that's the kind of energy that really is going to, I think, propel us forward on June the 13th. And it's also the kind of energy that we need to win this election in November. We can't simply sit back and say, vote for me and I'll capture the energy that's already out there. We got to add to it. And that's really what we've been doing throughout the course of this campaign.
Look, Justin, you kind of represent, and this is why I had you at the favorite from the beginning, because your energy, but you kind of represent the new mold for the Democrats, if you will. I mean, you look at the Democrats running for president right now that started super PACs. I mean, come on, man. Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Beth Warren. I mean, all these people, 75 plus. I mean, you got to get some younger people in here with some energy. And you don't play the game of identity politics. You're not divisive. You're trying to bring people together and find ways to work with people, which brings me to my next question. If you win and you're the lieutenant governor, you're going to preside over a Republican Senate in 2018. You're also going to be working with what is going to be a largely Republican House. Maybe the Democrats pick 5 seats, some say 8, I say 4. But it's going to be a Republican House. Kurt Cox is going to be the speaker. I don't know who the governor is going to be. Look, to get anything done, you can't throw bombs. You can't throw dynamite. You can't get up and do press conferences every day and say, Trump sucks. You can't do it. Can't get anything done. That's what Platt does. I don't get why she's even running for lieutenant governor, to be honest. She isn't going to get anything done. You have to be able to work with other people across the aisle to move Virginia forward. Explain your vision of working with the Republicans and others to get things done.
Absolutely, John. And that's really why people want, us to go to Richmond, is to get things done on their behalf and for their families and their communities. We have a series of challenges that we can turn into opportunities to advance their families, but really only if we work together. As you mentioned in the Senate, it is very narrowly split, 21 Republicans and 19 Democrats. So I think that there is a a number of ways that we can work together. Frankly, again, we have been focused like a laser on getting more people into one of these 175,000 middle-skilled jobs that are open today in the Commonwealth of Virginia. These are jobs that pay on average 3 to 5 times minimum wage.
Right.
But the two biggest barriers are folks, can't afford the certification in the classes at our community colleges and elsewhere, and they can't afford the bigger opportunity cost of not working for 6, 9, 12 months it takes to be certified.
Right.
What we want to do is create a bridge for people to be able to access those jobs. And this is, John, by the way, something that we have talked about when I went down to Southwest Virginia, South Side, Hampton Roads, Northern Virginia, Richmond, the Valley. People are hungry for that kind of focus, because if we fill those 175,000 jobs, by the way, we don't have to create them. They exist. They are here today, but they're going unfilled. We would bring an additional $1 billion in income into Virginia's families' pockets and paychecks, and we'd create $54 million in additional tax revenue in the general fund that we would not have to raise a dime to raise. And so this is something that we can work on. Whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, a conservative, progressive, we can make sure that we are making it available for more families to move up that economic ladder. And, John, the way I envision this is, imagine climbing up a ladder and you got 2 rungs missing, right? And the rungs are there above it, and that's a higher paycheck and the ability to buy a house and send your kids to college. And I think our function in working together is to put those 2 rungs there so people can continue to lift themselves up in the climb. And that's what we want to focus in on. And so I will work with anyone who is focused on getting more Virginians into these higher-paying middle-skilled jobs. I'll work with anyone who is focused on reducing violence in our communities. I've called for series of Stop the Violence and Create Opportunity town halls. We're seeing an epidemic of gun violence around the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we've got to come together to solve that problem. I also will work with people who want to dismantle the school-to-prison pipeline in the Commonwealth of Virginia. There was a study done that we are number 1 in referring our young people to the criminal justice system for school-based infractions in the country, ahead of 49 other states in the District of Columbia. That's got to change. And, John, it's the passion of my life to make sure that we create these opportunities for our young people, for our families, so that they can achieve the American dream. You know my story. I started in a tough place, but I had people who came along and gave me consistently opportunities, something I like to call spiritual wealth. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had faith and hope and optimism and a high-quality education, and that allowed, my family, my parents, my mom, my grandparents, my late maternal grandparents, to put all 4 of her children through college and 2 of us through law school. Start from a place where we didn't have very much. And so that's the power of what's possible in this country, and I want that to be available to everybody, no matter if you live in Abingdon or Charlottesville or Richmond or Portsmouth or Fairfax County or Prince William County. You should get that shot. And so that's really where my focus and the passion of my life is.
Well, I really like what you just said about spiritual wealth. I think that's something that, people don't really think about, but I see where you're coming from with that. And look, a lot of our listeners are not on the $200,000 scale. They're not living in the mansions. I mean, they're listening to me in their cars on AM radio. They don't have satellite. So, we have a very different audience, people going to work every day, and what they want is they want progress and solutions, better jobs, and a better future. And, that's what we ought to be focused on.
That's absolutely right, John. I want all your listeners to know, and I want everyone who's listening today to know that I'm here to fight for you. That's why I'm in this race, is that no matter where you are geographically, no matter where you are, economically, socioeconomically, I want to make sure that you get to move up. And that is the power of what's possible in this country. It is unlike any other country in the world. And we have to make that available to more people. And, John, we can work together across the aisle, across all kind of lines, because we're in graduation season right now. I don't see Democratic and Republican graduates of our, community colleges and of our universities. I see the graduates of families. And I see proud parents and grandparents looking at their kids walk across the stage to have a better life. And they're not talking about what party they're from. They're talking about the fact that they got a shot, and I want to make sure everybody gets that shot.
Well, look, and you mentioned something about technical education, which is where we've got to move in Virginia. Senator Frank Wagner, who's a Republican running for governor of Virginia Beach, rolled out what I thought was a brilliant plan a week ago. We covered it, and he calls it standards of achievement. And what he wants to be able to do is go back to a time where you can choose an alternative path in a high school that is going to lead you into a trade or a craft that meets a need that Virginia has, whether it be a pipe fitter, lineman, something of that nature. And he said, but do it in the high school so you're not coming out and then you have to spend $20,000 at an ECPI or something of that nature, all right, in order to get what you could be taught in high school, and then make it something you're proud of. Not like in the old days. I mean, I'm much older than you, Jay, but I remember the old days. Like, you know, people would take shop because, like, they couldn't pass math. I mean, that's not what his vision is, right? It's not the old shop class because you can't get out of algebra. It's, you know, I'm going to school. I'm going to get a trade. I'm going to be a craftsman, right?
Yep, absolutely. And John, first of all, I'd love to take a look at that plan from Senator Wagner. You talked about, you know, being able to work across the aisle, and I love that he's focused, you know, on these, you know, higher paying middle school jobs. And I agree with you, John. Here's the other thing: I'm somebody who values work and not just wealth. You know, I think there is tremendous value and pride every single day. You know, put their shoes and their boots on, their hard hats, and, you know, their lunch pails, and they get up and they go out to earn some money for their families. My late maternal grandfather, who helped provide, you know, for us and my grandmother and my dad and my mom and others, you know, my grandfather was a postal worker for 45 years. He walked to work every single day for 45 years. He taught me what an incredible work ethic was. My grandmother was a nurse at Freeman's Hospital for over 40 years, walked to work, you know, every single day. And so my mom's a pharmacist, and so many other folks, you know, in my family, in my community, who I saw, you know, get up, be bus drivers, you know, be plumbers and electricians. And these were people who were, you know, paying their mortgage, putting food on the table, and paying for their kids to go to college. So, you know, they were moving up the economic ladder, and they were fighting to make sure that their kids could be better off than they were. This is the first generation in modern American history that does not believe they will do as well as their parents. That is the challenge of our time. That's where we've got to focus. And so I'd love to see Senator Wagner's plan on this, and I completely agree that we need to incorporate more technical and vocational training in the K through 14 really pipeline, because we need to start thinking about education beyond high school, whether you're going into a technical vocational field or you're going to pursue a 2 or 4 year college degree. We need to start equipping young people with these skills so that they can get jobs, build their resumes. I want Virginia's kids to be the best educated, most skilled, and best equipped socially kids in the country. That's got to be our goal. I don't want any other state to have kids that have more technical vocational training, more, you know, access to math, the arts, languages. I want our kids to have the best. And I think if you're going to be involved in Virginia politics, you got to start with that premise. And that applies everywhere in this Commonwealth of Virginia, to all 8 million people here, and to every region. And so that's why we've traveled, John, over 35,000 miles and gotten into the car, you know, tried to demonstrate the work ethic that I, you know, admire so much in so many people here in the Commonwealth. You know, we get up early, you know, drop my kids off at school, and then we hit the road and we go talk to voters. And we tell them that we're here to fight for you. We're passionate about your future. This is not about me. You don't have to go in a voting booth thinking about any politicians. You go in a voting booth thinking about your family, and those are the folks who are breaking our way dramatically.
All right. Looks like you're on a roll. I love your enthusiasm. And both of you and I have one thing, many things in common, but one of them that we have in common is both of us are married way up. So
we did indeed. I have met your beautiful bride, and she's brilliant. And my wife, Dr. Sarita Fairfax, as you know, has her own dental practice here in Fairfax. You know, love her. She's a VCU graduate, dental school graduate. Was the most outstanding dental school alumna of the last decade in 2015. So remind her that I said that. We're very, very proud of her, and I know you're proud of your wife. And look, John, it's about our families. You know, it's about getting back to a place where our families are secure, where they can move up, they can realize the American dream, be safe in their communities. This is a great country, John, and you know, we're going to provide that opportunity to more people.
All right, Justin, thanks for being with us. And you know, there is a very special fraternity out there of men that married 5 or 6 levels up. Justin and I are in that. It's a select few. It's a select few. Justin, thanks for being with us. I'm out of time. More information, fairfax4lg.com. fairfax4lg.com. And when this is over, call Frank Wagner either way, because the guy's onto something.